All right, let's get started today. I like this week we're doing week 12 or unit 12 on array lists. And while you will use arrays a lot, I believe you'll use array lists even more in if you go on to future programming. And I also think in some ways they're a little easier to use than arrays. So we're going to spend this week looking at array lists. Also, it's good because you see a lot of the same techniques you use on arrays. We'll use those same techniques like for loops we were just talking about. You'll use for loops again with array lists in similar ways. So let's just kind of review or see that in a different way. Um, so, and we get to play Yahtzee, which is good on later on. So let's start with the learning material here. So I'm just going to go over some of the CS awesome stuff to get started and introduce arrays, or I mean array lists here. So array lists are what are called a dynamic structure in that it's not a fixed size. So you can declare an array list, you can add elements to it, you can subtract elements to it. And this is very common in most modern programming languages to have something like this. Some programming languages just have lists and don't have the array. I'm thinking like Python uses the lists a lot, and almost everything is a list there. So we'll talk about doing imports. You have to do an import with array lists, so we'll do that there and declare it. I think what I'm going to do is just open up a project and do some sample coding. And you can decide if you want to do the same thing while following along here. In a little bit, we're going to go to an exercise in class, and you're going to have to do some coding. So you can wait till then if you want. But I like to see this code here. So I'm just going to make a little sandbox project here. Unit 12, sandbox. So I can just try out some of this code. Okay, so in here, I'm just going to declare an array for this. And so I'm just going to take this code from 7.1.2 here and post it in here. Make it a little bigger. So we're going to start with an array list of strings here. So we're going to say array list. And then I don't think we've seen, I don't think we've seen this, what's called a template method or structure here, where we use a greater than and a less than to surround a type. So we say, if we wanted an array list of strings, we put greater than string, less than greater than, yeah. String. If we wanted to be like integers, we'd put integer in here. So whatever type we'd want, we put that in here. So we're going to make an array list of strings here, and we're going to give it some name, shopping list. Now, it's not going to know what string array list is until we do our include. So I'm just going to go here and import. So we're going to import java.util.arraylist. You will see this sometimes because we'll have a bunch of Java util imports often. You can actually say java.util.star to import everything under Java util stuff. So sometimes you'll see people use that, which is fine. Some people there's some technical reasons to use one or the other, but either one is fine in this class. Okay, so yeah, here's our generic format, array list. and a greater than less than, and the type, the name. So we're calling our shopping list, and we say new or equals new. So we're going to instantiate what we call instantiate this, create one. And again, we repeat this, an array list of strings. And then we call what is called the constructor, or it's just parentheses here for this. So that's how we create this array list. Now to add things to the array list, we would say shopping list dot add, and we'd add some items. So let's say today I want to buy some apples to the list, so I can add things. I will mention one other way. We'll often do this declaration all in one line here, but you can separate it on two separate lines here. So we can say do our declaration on one line, end it, and then do our assignment on a different line later on. So we can do this on two separate lines here. Later on, if you do more programming, there will be times where we'll need to separate these two things here, where we'll need to declare it so that the scope where it's used is in one area, but then we'll initialize it in another area for this. But for this class, we'll generally just do it all in one line like that. So again, we can add items to our list. What else should we go shopping for? Maybe some pumpkin pie. Now to print off the items in the list, we would do a system out print line, and we can print out shopping list, and then we can just say sub 0 to print out the first element of that list here. So that's how we do it when we're doing an array here. So you're used to doing that. Now with an array list, we can't use this bracket here directly. So how do we print out something? So we're going to use a dot and then get, and then specify 0 here. So this is very similar to what we use with arrays for this. And then if we run this, it should just print off apples. And then to print off the next element in the array, we would just say print out shopping list of get 1 to get the next element. Let me just pull this screen over. If it's like an array, you might start thinking of just a list of values where you can store strings in their index starting at 0, 1, and we're storing things in them. So we're storing the string apples in that one. We're storing pumpkin pie, this one. In that one. And we can, it can go on and on. We can add elements to that if we want to add another one. There's plenty of room, and we can actually move ones around. We can delete elements out of this array list there. So this is kind of our array list that we're kind of looking at here. How is this different than an array? So remember, you might want to actually do an array here too. So how would we do an array of this for first comparison? So you do string or yeah. String array, let's say call this shopping array. A goes new string. But with an array, you'd have to say how many elements you'd want in the array here. You'd specify that. Now to add elements to an array, you would just say shopping array sub 0, for example, equals apples. So you can add an element to an array like that. Here we add, so when we say add, we specify that we want to add that element to the array and make new space to it. Now you can also do if you want to do more like the other one where you overwrite whatever's there, you can say shopping list dot set. And you can say set element 0 to let's say we don't want apples, we want oranges. So you can reset it. So now when you print this off, it should print out oranges and pumpkin pie. So it set it equal to added apples here, but we're overwriting apples and we're putting in oranges here. Does that make sense? With array lists, we can add, we can set here. There's also a delete we'll see later on and we can get, we can add, we can set for this. Now in all of these, we run into problems where if we try to reference the array or an array out of bounds. So let's say we want to print off, so here let's say we want to print off on our array at 0. See if I can spell that correctly. As long as we're getting the right index or using the index and array fine like this, it works out fine. But we try to get too large of a value like index 5 here or 4. That's going to give us an error. Index exception, index out of bounds, index 4 out of bounds for length of 2. So there's only 2 elements in our array, and we're trying to access the 4th one. Similarly, let's switch that back to 0. We get the similar thing when we're trying to use an array, and we try to go outside that bounds. Array index out of bounds exception, index of 4 out of bounds for length of 2. So let's just talk about, so how do we figure out what the length of an array is? We can actually print off that or use that. How do you print off length of an array? Elements in my array is, and I'm just going to do shopping array dot length. And note, it doesn't have any parentheses. And why do I say, why would you even say it doesn't? Because when we do the array lists, if we do shopping list here, There is no length, but there is a size. I get into trouble because I'm doing I'm doing like 3 different programming languages right now. They all have lists, but they each have often a different way of getting the size of the list. Sometimes it's linked, sometimes it's linked with parentheses, sometimes it's size there. So they're different ones. This one in Java is with array lists. It is the name of the array list dot size, but then you have to do the parentheses because it's a method call. This is what we call an attribute. So it's just a set value, but this is a method. So we have to call it with empty parameters after it. So that's how we can get a size of the array. Okay. Let's go back to CS Awesome, see how we're doing here. Print out, let's try this. Let's probably print out a whole array list. So rather than printing out just one value, let's try to print off the entire array and what that looks like. So I'm just going to say print off the shopping list here. Got extra one. Let's try that. So if I try to print off the whole array, it prints it off with brackets. It looks, the whole list, it looks like whole thing with brackets and everything. So you can print off the whole array. It has a set format, so we'll actually often print it off differently, so we can print it off in our own format, but you can do that. So that's what they're showing here. Print off the whole array. Size of the array here, and printing out the size of the array for this. Let's just talk about an array of something else here. Array of numbers. So again, if we want to do an array of numbers, we would say array list integers num list. So in Java, we're used to using ints, right? But with array lists, you can't use primitive types like ints. You have to use what we call complex types or wrapper types. And so for ints, that's integer. We could also do an array list of doubles here. But it has to be the uppercase doubles. The uppercase, so you can do another type like this. They talk a little bit about this. I missed it up here. Oops, let's go up. Here, array lists can only hold references like strings. They can't hold primitive types like int or double. But there are what are called wrapper classes, integers and doubles with capitals here. And so we can create an array list of integers, and the computer will automatically convert an int to an integer class as we need it. So just so you know, I mean, there are 2 different like doubles. There's a double my num1 equals 46.54. And there's double with the capital D. My num2 equals 45. So you can declare these with this and this. Now, this is the primitive type. And with that primitive type, you really can't do much. If you try to type in my num1 dot, there are no suggestions. It says there are no suggestions. But if I do this with a big type like a double with a capital D, I type 9num2. I can do lots of things. I can do lots of converting and to string values and comparing values and stuff like that with this. I actually suggest, and I will try to start using the wrapper types from now on, integers and doubles with the capital D, because they are kind of more versatile. For some reason, when we first teach Java, we teach the primitive types because those are the most basic types. But most programmers will tend to use the more advanced types, the capital D double, capital D I integer. If nothing else, just because in like array lists, you have to use them there. So we'll tend to use these a lot more going forward. Okay, so back to CIS. Awesome. Where were we? There is no good way to initialize an array list to a set of values. Here they're trying to show you it, but they're just creating an array and then converting that array to an array list. So there's a way to convert an array into an array list, but there's no good way of doing this. Here's our shopping list example, printing out the size, adding carrots and bread. And yeah, let's put chocolate on our shopping list over here. So again, we can add that at any point here. We can create our shopping list. Now we can add another item, and then we can print off our shopping list again. We'll see that this is our first shopping list with oranges and pumpkin pie. And then here is we added chocolate to the list, and I put chocolate at the end. So when you do add, it always adds it to the end of the list. So like, again, if this is our list here, by end, I mean over here, it'll add another 0, 1, 2, and it'll be over there. Yeah, and here they're doing their integers arrays. That's fine. Let's just do a couple loops with array lists here. And I'm going to have you start doing some coding with them. So let's say we had this array list. And I wanted to just loop through and print off all of the values. So rather than doing this sort of stuff, where I'm printing off array list 1, array list 2, or 0 and 1, I want to put that in a loop. So I'm going to do a loop for int I equals 0, I less than the size of the array. So again, I'm going to use shopping list dot length, size, and then I plus plus. So that's our standard loop that we can use to loop through them. And then I'm going to put this print statement inside that here. But rather than printing off 0 all the time, I want to print out the ith one each time. So this will print off each item in the list using I as a counter for this. So if I run this, it should print off. This is the normal printout, but here's printing off each item on its own line is what I'm doing here. Now you remember we did another loop called a for each loop, and we use these a lot when using lists also. So we would say for each for each string, maybe item in the shopping list. Do, and then we just have to print off the item. So this should do the same thing as before. It should print off our shopping list with each item. And again, there's different ways of reading this, but what I'm thinking of is how often you usually read this is for each item in the shopping list, do the following. So it'll set item to the first element, item to the second element, item to the third element. So and it'll be a string because shopping list is an array of strings. If it were an array of doubles, it would have to be for each double, number in number list or something like that. So, and then we can just work with that item in our loop for this. So if you look at this and this, the second one is much less complicated, lot less places to go wrong with it. So that's why we will tend to be using this a lot going forward. Okay, let's get you trying out some code here. So can you go and do Unit 12, go to the learning materials, and scroll down to the intro to array list worksheet. I want you to complete the intro to array list worksheet here. So again, this is just a quick summary of the differences we highlighted. Arrays are fixed links. Array lists are variable links. This is how we declare an array. This is how we declare an array list. This is how we access one value in an array. So we access or get one value in an array list. So we get the size or length of an array here. And this is how we add or remove an item from a list here. Okay, so go down to your array list worksheet, open up this intro to array list worksheet and start this. So I'm going to want you to go through these. There's 7 tasks. We're going to see how many of these tasks you can get done today here. So again, I suggest creating a new project. Unit 12. Array list activity. So, and I'm going to just pause and let you try to get through these first couple tasks, see if you can do it. You're going to create an array list called secret numbers and try to add the secret number to it and add more versions of this. So see if you can get through this. Okay, so how are we doing here? So task 1 was task 0 was to declare an array and add 84 to it. So we declared our array of secret numbers here. We added 84 to it here. And then task 1 is to add 4 more items to the array list. So here's 4 more items to the array list. And you can imagine that we've got this array list and we're adding items. So we have 84 in there, we're adding 13, we're adding, and again, you can do any numbers you want, 124, I did minus 16, and 33. So we're creating our array. Now we're printing off with the get method, the second element. Now the question is, if I print off that, will it print off when I look at this, will it print off the second one 13, or will it print off the third one 124? When I say get to, so I can try this out and see it's printing off 124, which is really the third one, because again, they're indexed starting at 0, 1, 2 here. So what indexes are 0, 1, 2. So when I say the second one or index 2, it'll do that one. So again, once you get that set up, and again, if you forget to add these elements and you try to print off that third one, you're going to get an error, index out of bounds, index 2 out of bounds for length 1. So if we only have one element in an array, it's not going to work. We have to make, that's why we add these elements. Okay, so you're going to write a for loop to print off each one, and then you're going to write a for each loop to print off each item. So see if you can write those two for loops here for this. Okay, so for step 2, we added this for loop to print off all the secret numbers with a for I equals 0 to secret number dot size loop. For task 3, we switched it to a for each loop, just for each integer num in secret numbers, print off num. And now we're going to do a for loop. And again, this is where we can't do a for each loop. We're going to repeat this, add random numbers to it. So for int, I'm just going to say count equals 0, count less than 10. I'll have to make sure it's less than, not less than equal, count plus plus. And I'm going to move this code inside of there. Format that. So that should add items, random numbers to my list. I'm going to get rid of these not random numbers for now and just do it this way to see. So it should have 10 numbers in my list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. I have to watch because again, if I'm going to count starting at 0 and go to it less than 10, I could literally here, since I'm just counting, I could count to 1 and do less than or equal to 10, and that would do the same thing because I'm not using that count anywhere other than just counting. So that would do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do 10 numbers too. And again, every time I run this, it'll generate 10 new random numbers for us. So next thing is to move some of the code into methods here. So see if you can create again, print list method. So again, we want to be outside our main. So here's our main. I sometimes, again, almost like to put little comments in here. I miss my other IDE. It puts these comments in automatically and main. So outside of that and main, I'm going to declare Alexa void print list and do that. And I'm going to move this code into that list, right? And I want to call print list up here. It's void, so it can be on a line by itself, public static void. Now, I have to worry about my array lists and do my parameters. What is this? Why is there a parameter here? On how do I use it there? And how do I use that parameter inside my list? So see if you can bring this. And we want print list and random list to both be in here. Okay, so when I'm calling print lists here, I want to, in my main program, I call print lists and I'm going to pass in my variable, and my variable is secret numbers. So I'm going to pass in secret numbers here. Now, what that does is secret numbers is copied into print list here and renamed lists. So it's copied into this list variable. So then inside my code here, I should be using this list variable, not secret numbers. Here it doesn't know what secret numbers is. So I just want to make sure that inside my code, I'm using my local parameter here, list, there. And I can just pop my code in. Here's the for each. I can do the same thing. Here's print list 2 I did with, I passed in the array list, and I'm using a for loop here instead of a for each loop. Now with this one, I need to get the list size here, and I need to get the elements, each element here. So there's a couple places where I have to use this local parameter, my local array list. Because there's, remember, recall a method like print list, our argument, secret numbers is passed here and list is initialized equal to that. And then we run our code. Now, what happens if we try to change this list here? So let's try to do this with this random list. Are we allowed, because with primitive types, you can't necessarily change a primitive type, at least it won't change it back in the main program here. But let's try this. I'm going to move this code here into this random list. And up here, I'm going to call, where I had that code, I'm just going to call random list with secret numbers. And so here's my random list. And again, I have to use my list here and not reformat some stuff. And not my secret numbers, because secret numbers is not known in this method. So if I do this, do I still get my random list? I still will get a random list here. So when we pass objects like a list to it, it passes the pointer to it. So it'll pass the address of this list, and then we can change it. And the address of that list, we can modify it. And not all languages work this way, but Java does. So when we pass in a list as a parameter or any object like that, it's not a primitive type, we can modify that object directly in our method here. Okay, so that's our things. We're running out of time here, so I'm going to leave the rest of this for you to help work with. Find largest, find smallest here. Now, if you need some help with this, in the CIS Awesome, they have these array list algorithms here. So they talk about adding an element, but they also go through min, max, sum, and average and walk you through little challenges to reorganize this so it does it in the right order. Find the min here, find the max. So that's a good exercise too. Also, this introduction to Java programming on array lists is a little dense, but I think it's kind of nice. It talks about array lists and these parameterized types, which is what an array list is. And then it shows you like list.size, list.add, list.get, list.set, list.clear, list.remove, and index of. So shows you some of that. And then talks again about these wrapper classes some more. So feel free to review that stuff too. When we're getting in the Yahtzee on the next class, we'll do the Yahtzee learning activity. We'll get more into this. Now, another thing you can do is that if you want, you can ask AI to do this. So let's just go to ChatGPT and see how it does. I am learning Java, this and array lists for the first time. Here is my program so far and paste that in. I use Shift Enter so I can do some other lines in there. And then I'm going to say, write the following method here. So I'm going to say, write the following methods. Can you help write the following methods? Keep them simple since I am just learning. Okay, and then it creates beginner-friendly ones here. I don't know how, it still does a little bit more than I would like. Find largest, does some air checking on the size of the list here, but the rest is pretty good for this list. We're just setting, the largest to the first item in the list, and we're looping, checking each item if it's greater than the largest, and if not, find smallest, and tells you how to use them here. So, and it suggests maybe you want to do find average and count even numbers or stuff like that. And again, we'll do some of those. So AI helps, but again, sometimes it does extra stuff here. I would take this, put it in my program here, but I would get rid of this air checking. We know we've already set the size of the list, so we don't have to check if there's items here for it. I would like it to maybe put in a little more comments. So one thing you can do is, can you add some more comments and explain this code to me? Also drop the air checking for now. Okay, and now it's doing one with comments without the air checking, which I think, and then walks you through that. So again, feel free to use AI to help you with some of this to learn it. Okay.